today's session. Today we are going to begin with the Unit 4 of Truly Beautiful Mind, written by William Butler Yeats. एक कहानी है जिसको सब आप जानते हैं, पहचानते हैं और उसकी जो इक्वेशंस हैं उसको आप मैथमेटिक्स साइंस में कहीं ना कहीं पे पढ़ते हैं. यस, ही इज़ नन अनदर देन एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन. बचपन में 2 साल तक तो कुछ बोला ही नहीं था और जब बोलता था, जब बोलना सीखा तो हर एक बात 2-2 बार बोलता था. माँ ने भी देखा कि उसका ब्रेन बहुत ज़्यादा यूँ बाहर था, मतलब फूला हुआ था. इट्स वॉज फ्लफी, सो इट थिंक्स दैट ही वॉज अ क्रेजी पर्सन. हम पागल तो बिल्कुल नहीं कह सकते हैं उनके लिए वर्ड. एंड यस, जो टीचर्स थे वो भी उसको निगलेक्ट करते थे कहीं ना कहीं पे. अब बात आती है इस चैप्टर में अ टाइटल, अ ट्रूली ब्यूटीफुल माइंड. क्या एक साइंटिस्ट का दिमाग बहुत ही सुंदर हो सकता है, दिमाग शार्प हो सकता है, इंटेलिजेंट इंटेलेक्चुअल हो सकता है. साइंटिस्ट का दिमाग कोई ना कोई डिस्कवरीज के बारे में जान सकता है, बता सकता है. लेकिन इस चैप्टर में जो एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन जो कहना चाहते हैं वो हम देखेंगे थ्रू वन स्मॉल वीडियो. सो लेट्स गो इन अ वर्ल्ड ऑफ वीडियो where we can learn about Albert Einstein, who want to give some other definition from the discoveries and experiments of the science.
A truly beautiful mind. Yes, you thought it right. Albert Einstein's mind. This chapter, A Truly Beautiful Mind, recounts the life of an outstanding scientific personality, Albert Einstein, from his birth till his death. His theories totally changed our understanding of space and time. Though he was not successful in his family life, his scientific exploits won him the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was known as a visionary and a world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Now, let me start the lesson with the lines from the book. We shall now read about a young German civil servant who took the world by storm about 100 years ago. In the summer of 1905, the 26-year-old published in quick succession 4 groundbreaking papers about light, the motion of particles, the electrodynamics of moving bodies, and energy. His work took up only a few pages in scientific journals but changed forever our understanding of space, time, and the entire cosmos, and transformed the name Einstein into a synonym for genius. 50 years after his death, Albert Einstein's genius still reigns. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm, without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. So, the youngster played by himself much of the time. He especially loved mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister, Maja, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he'll never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining the skill throughout his life. These paragraphs say about the early life of Einstein. Let us learn point by point. His mother thought that he was abnormal. Point 1. Point 2. He loved to play with mechanical toys. Point 3. Other children called him Brother Boring. Point 4. His school headmaster said he would never be successful. Point 5. His mother made him learn violin and he became a talented amateur violinist. Let me now continue with the 4th paragraph. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German speaking Switzerland in a city which was more liberal than Munich. These paragraphs talk about Einstein's education. Einstein's parents shifted to Milan and they allowed him to continue school in Munich. But he left the high school at the age of 15 as he felt uneasy with the strictness. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with a walrus mustache. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Maric, whom he found to be a clever creature. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." These paragraphs talk about how Einstein was extraordinary in mathematics and interested in physics. He continued his studies at the university in Zurich. There, he met a Serbian girl, Mileva Maric, who was also an intellectual. They fell in love and ultimately married after Albert found a job on finishing his university studies. Back to lines from textbook. Paragraph 9. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc squared. He explains his theory with an interesting concept. When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. When you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That's relativity, said by Albert Einstein. Paragraphs 10 and 11 talks about his marriage, his unhappy life, and his divorce in 1919. Next comes an important paragraph. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. So this paragraph says that in 1915, Einstein published his general theory of relativity. The solar eclipse of the sun proved this theory as correct. He became famous and he received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. They were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. Einstein was persuaded by a colleague to write to Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the USA, about atomic bomb, that this development could cause large-scale devastation. In spite of that, The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time, he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. That brings us to the end of this lesson, children. This story talked about the life of an outstanding scientific personality, Albert Einstein, from his birth till his death. That's all for today, children.
कौन कहता है कि साइंटिस्ट इंसान नहीं होते हैं? हर इंसान में सीना होता है, दिल धड़कता है। जैसे आप में ह्यूमैनिटी है, आप में फीलिंग्स है, आप में इमोशंस हैं, वैसे साइंटिस्ट एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन में भी थे, जिन्होंने अपने लास्ट के ईयर्स जो अपनी ज़िंदगी के थे, वो जो एट द एज ऑफ 75 जब वो एक्सपायर हो रहे थे, तभी पिछले 5 साल उन्होंने अमेरिका और यूएस को हेल्प करने में, पीस के लिए गुजारे थे। क्योंकि जब हिरोशिमा नागासाकी के ऊपर हमला हुआ था एटॉमिक बम का, तब वो बहुत दुखी हुए थे, क्योंकि उससे पहले ही उन्होंने एटम बम के रिसर्च के बारे में बहुत सारी घोषणाएं की थी कि उससे क्या विनाश हो सकता है। लेकिन उसके बाद उनको अपॉइंट किया गया फॉर द पीस एंड यूनिटी एंड कोऑपरेशन एंड कोऑर्डिनेशन मूवमेंट अमॉन्ग द कंट्रीज वेयर ही हैड बीन वर्क वेरी हार्ड फॉर द म्यूचुअल पीस एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग। सो यही चीज सिखाना चाहता है अ ट्रूली ब्यूटीफुल माइंड presented by Albert Einstein and in the words of William Butler Yeats. I hope you have been understood the video in a proper manner and you are going to eagerly wait for upcoming test. All the best students for the upcoming test. Do your best and give your best. Bye.